right, well, we are here for Film School Rejects, and we're with Matt Reeves, the director, and Kodi Smit-McPhee, the star of Let Me In. Guys, welcome. How's the reception been so far to some of the screenings that you've been doing?
It's been really good. Yeah, it's been really exciting. It's fun because until we went to Toronto, we'd never shown it to a public audience, and actually Kodi hadn't seen the final version. So that night he was incredibly excited, and then here this is our U.S. premiere, really, and so it's very exciting that Harry Knowles and Tim Lee chose our film because they were huge fans of the original film. And this is the place where it debuted really on the American stage in 2008. So it's exciting. It was an honor that they chose us to open there. So it's been cool.
Well, and you mentioned the original film, and of course it's a novel as well. The original story is not an American story.
Yes.
Was there any work that went into creating it as an American story, or did you see it as a universal tale?
Well, I saw that the reason that I was so connected to it is that I related to the story of the coming of age, the childhood that he was going through, being bullied, and I guess what I wanted to do was to put it in an American context that I remembered. He grew up in the 80s, and the book is set in the 80s because it's basically his childhood at that time in Sweden. And so what I wanted to do was to flesh out the details of this version of the story from what I remembered growing up, and so that was the attempt at making it American. And I thought by doing that was the best way to preserve the universal themes, because I have this sort of weird thought about stories that you actually get at the universal by being very, very specific, and that even means culturally specific, because those details, they speak truthfully about what that experience is like.
Sure. And Kodi, this is a really brutal role for a young man. I'm wondering, when you read it, was the appeal to the role that it was that brutal, or was it the challenge that it presented to you?
I think I've done obviously a bit of other kind of dramatic, brutal stuff before this, and The Road was definitely one of the most kind of, I don't know what the word is, but it was a big thing that I did, and it was hard to do, and it was cold, and everything just came up into this one thing that I had to kind of force myself to do some things and go in the cold water. And I think doing this, it was kind of a little step down, but emotionally.
This was actually
This is easier.
This is easier than The Road. Okay.
But emotionally, like the character-wise, it was harder to kind of make up more of his life, because really he's just grown up really kind of by himself, because his parents are divorced and his mum doesn't really help him a lot in life, and that scene where he's on the phone, he's kind of just trying to help and trying to get help and reach out, and he can't, so he's by himself and he has to make that choice to go see her. But yeah, it's a good role.
That was the scene actually that why I cast Kodi, because that scene seemed so melodramatic. And all these kids came in, and I thought, I wanted it to be like that scene in Rosemary's Baby where you hold.
Right, the close-up on
the close-up on Mia Farrow. And I just want you to hold on that character, and you watch as he kind of goes through this experience. And I thought, well, what 12-year-old can do that? And then Kodi came in, and he blew me away. And I felt for the first time that we could make the movie.
Right, at that moment, well, congratulations to you for making him feel like
Means
you
a
could do the movie.
Yeah.
Tone-wise, I just wanted to ask you, it seemed like a lot of interesting artistic choices that you made as a director. Specifically, and something I noticed is that we never see the mother's face. There's the clearest moment is from far away. Even it's either blurred or obscured.
Yes.
Keeping that in mind, one, why did you choose to do that?
Sure.
And did it speak to the overall, what were the other sort of ideas that you had thematically to do it that way?
Well, I wanted, the thing that I tried to do is I wanted the film to be as much as possible within his emotional space, and as much as possible to be in his point of view, in a kind of classical sense, almost like in a Hitchcockian thriller sense, even, that you would see things the way he sees things, and that when he looks out of his windows, that it was sort of almost a rear window-esque kind of thing. And when it came to the relationship with the mother, I wanted to show this distance that he had. Unfortunately, because of the mother being involved in all of the painful stuff she was involved in, she was absent, and I wanted to find a way to show that visually. And it was actually, I was inspired probably by In the Mood for Love, Wong Kar-wai. It's about this couple, and each of them are married, but you never see the spouses except fleetingly.
And the limitations on
Yeah.
those characters' abilities to act against what they want to do as well.
Absolutely, and so it's weird. It's about these two married couples, but it's really about the emotions between these two characters, and I wanted it to be sort of the same thing for his character, where it's about his relationship with his mother, but to some degree it's about the distance that's between them because of what's going on and how hard it is for him. He's so isolated. And probably also I was inspired, I mean definitely, because I thought about, when I'm trying to set it in sort of an American sort of context, I thought about Spielbergia and the idea of like all the Spielberg movies that sort of did all those suburban movies that had kids at the center. And in E.T., I remembered that he did a bit of that too. And Harrison Ford is actually the teacher in the scene where they're dissecting the frogs, and you never see his face, you hear his voice. And it's this idea of the kid's eye point of view, I think, as well, that I was trying to embrace.
Great. Last question, and this is for both of you. If you're in Abby's position, do you get a manservant, or do you go out and just hunt and kill on your own?
I wasn't sure why she had a manservant in the end. I was actually realizing, why didn't she just go out and kill people herself and then move?
So you're kind of a lone wolf character.
Yeah.
You would.
I
He's a
thought
survivor.
I just go out, kill someone, and then you have to go through all that trouble of having a human do it and then hide them and then getting caught. I think maybe if you were just an animal and just kept moving.
what do you, Matt, do you agree?
Well, when you read the novel, I mean, it's a very hard existence. And she goes through, actually in the novel, there are a number of ways she finds to get blood. But the thing that I found the most captivating about the concept in the novel was that she wasn't a 250-year-old woman inside of a 12-year-old's body. She was a person caught at that time of life. And so she doesn't really evolve emotionally or intellectually. She learns how to survive. So she's like a 12-year-old who really knows how to survive. But she loses control when these urges come up. And she actually, could use a protector and a provider because she's a danger to herself. She could be found out. And so, it's
even
it's
though she seems far more capable.
She seems far more
in at
capable
least
of
this
killing,
part
which
of
she
the
clearly
story.
is, but what it means to survive and get away with what she's doing and to live day by day. And she's also quite vulnerable. I mean, she can't really survive if light gets to her, and she does need a protector. And so it's a very complex situation. But I also think, a lot of people are like, oh, well, are you saying that, that Owen is definitely, or, Oscar from the original story, going to become that character? And I don't think it necessarily applies to that either. I think the ambiguity of the story is one of the things I love about it. She has a tender side, but she also has this brutal side.
Nice. Well, thank you so much. Good luck with everything.
Thank you.
Hopefully we'll talk to you soon.
Yes.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Cool.